I've got it. I have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've got it right here. This is the new Sony XM6. I've got it, and I'm at the beach at midnight because it's under embargo and I didn't want to risk anyone seeing it, but this is not the only reason I'm here. The other reason I'm here is because I wanted to test the microphone. Sony has said they've improved so many things, and one of the big things are apparently the microphone array, so your call quality is better. So I thought, come to the beach. The water's there, you can't see it, but it's there, except it's awfully quiet. I thought it'd be raging like a sea, but it's not. So plan B is to make our own wind. Let it be known that on this YouTube channel, if there's no breeze for testing, then you can depend on me to make wind right here in front of you on camera, always. There's a lot of breeze now, and I hope you're hearing me just fine, because what I really don't want to do is reshoot this entire intro. Because here's the deal, right? If I were to sum this headphones experience up in just 2 words, it would be they listened. Because the XM6 is such a noticeable and demonstrable difference from the XM5, an improvement in many ways, which I will be demonstrating to you shortly, that it's clear to me that Sony has taken viewer and tech reviewer feedback, made a list, run down that list and just fixed things. Let me show you. Now, with the XM5, one of the problems was that the headband was too narrow. So for longer listening sessions, it would be a little bit annoying on the head. It was pretty light. It wasn't a huge deal, but longer listening sessions were a problem. With the XM6, they've made it wider. Problem solved. But they didn't just stop there. With the XM5, when you put it on your neck like so, you were to fold it flat, it would fold outwards. Who does that? I mean, what if you get caught in a rainstorm? Sure, you've got your own private little rainwater harvesting right there, which is great if you're parched, but not so great if you spend upwards of, I don't know, $350 on your headphones. Not the best, right? That can't be great for drivers. Well, they fixed it. This time, it folds the right way down. And not only that, it even folds in on itself to make a smaller footprint, which makes it more friendly for travel, which also means the case is now smaller still. Although I must say the case is molded. I do not like that. If it was just a hollowed out case, that'd be great, but because it's molded, the headphone has to be folded in a very specific way, and only that way fits properly. So that's a little bit of a bugbear. Now, it is worth noting that Sony sent me this device. I get to keep this device, so there is some scope for bias, but they don't get to say what I say in the video. For example, there's a couple of pain points here. One is, of course, the jigsaw puzzle that you're given every time you're traveling, trying to fit this into this. It's a bit of annoyance, you do get used to it, but the bigger pain point, and this is quite literally a pain point, is when you take it out of the case, I tend to hold it by the ear cup and unfold it. And when I do that, guess what gets stuck right over there? That is quite a massive pinch point, something I found out the hard way. So I would recommend that you actually grab it by the headband and then unfold it. Now, what is absolutely not a pain point is the fact that there's no zipper on the case. It's just this magnetic clasp, and it's so satisfying to use. It's so easy to use. It just snaps right on. I actually really like this. And I know these things seems really small to you, but all of these things together make for a much nicer usage experience, at least in my opinion. Now, these headphones do come in 3 different colors: black, white, so it's actually, they call this titanium silver, I think, and blue. I kind of like this a lot. If you look closely, it's actually a little bit of a speckled stone finish, and it doesn't have that satin finish that the XM5 had, which also means, at least so far, it's not picking up my finger oils as easily, which is really nice. But that's something we can only really find out in a long-term review, so I suggest, hit that subscribe button. You already know what I was gonna ask. But that brings me to the power button. Now, this was a little bit of an annoyance, a personal pet peeve of mine. On the XM5, the power button was this small sliver of a thing, and every time I had to go for it, I had to reach for the noise cancelling button, which is the larger button, find my way to the power button. This one, way better. You've got this nice big round button that is also inset into the shell in a way that fits my thumb perfectly. So now when I go for it, thumb just fits in there and the power button is right there. Again, it's a small thing, but for everyday usage, as someone who dailied the XM5 for so long, this makes such a difference. Which brings me to the control scheme. Well, and this is interesting. Actually, by the way, these bikes, total scam. I mean, not a scam. They're electrically assisted. They're the easiest things to pedal ever. So if you ever catch anyone in Dubai saying, "Oh, I'm exercising, look at me on this bike," not really. Now, where was I? Oh yes, the control scheme. Okay. Sony headphones have some of the best control schemes amongst Bluetooth headphones, period. Not something I can say about their earphones. Go check my reviews of the earphones out. I have griped about them so hard, but the headphones, mwah. The right ear cup, as always, is a complete touch control, and it's so intuitive. You put it on your head and you swipe forward for next track, swipe back for the previous track, swipe up for volume up, swipe down for volume down. You get it, right? It's so simple. Double tap, triple tap. It's very intuitive and it's really nice and sensitive, and I absolutely love it. But the whole thing about Sony's control system is not that you've got touch controls, it's that they add a lot of ways to do certain functions hands-free. Like, for example, right now, you've got this new thing where you can nod to accept a call or shake your head to reject a call. Actually, it might not be that new, but it's new to me anyway. You can also set it to change between noise cancelling and ambient sound mode of your choosing based on your geolocation. You can set an area, or you can get the headphone to learn your behavior and say, oh, every time he goes into this area, the library, I don't know, he always switches to noise cancelling, let me do that for him. It does these things. Heck, you can even get it to change your noise cancelling mode based on whether you're sitting, standing, running, walking, on a bus. I actually tried it on a plane the other day. I had a flight and it worked. And then you've got that speak to chat. You speak, it goes into ambient sound automatically. You have your conversation, you stop speaking, it goes back into noise cancelling. Not the ideal thing for someone like me who likes to hum along with tunes and stuff. It just keeps going into and out of noise cancelling. I also talk to myself sometimes, you know, it's totally normal, right? Also, if you want to switch to transparency mode, just do this. It did it right now. So you can listen to that announcement at the train station or have a conversation with someone, take your hand off and it immediately goes back to noise cancelling mode or your previous mode, whatever that may be. My point is there are so many different ways to do things, and the control scheme is not just the control scheme, it's all of these features put together, which then brings me to the next question. Why is there still a noise cancelling and ambient sound button? You have like 5 different ways to switch between noise cancelling. What is this button for? Well, it's for a lot more now. There's actually 3 functions of the noise cancelling button now. One is, of course, noise cancelling and ambient sound mode. 2, you have double tap to go into your favorite Spotify playlist, but then you have triple tap. And this is the interesting one, because this finally allows you to mute your microphone at the hardware level right here. Which means if you're on that video or audio call with your boss and you're sitting at home and your kids come storming in suddenly and all hell is loose and they're making a racket, triple tap on that button, microphone's muted, and then you can go right to giving them a piece of your mind. You can tell them exactly what you think and how ungrateful they are and how they keep making noise and how all you really want to do is a little bit of peace and quiet on your off day so you can have this meeting with your boss and earn the money so that they can buy their strawberries and cream every morning for their breakfast. And who's going to pay for all that? Is money going from trees? I mean, in my day, the way we... Sorry about that. Which brings me to the app. Okay. Sony's app is a bit of a saga, and to put it mildly, I think they should just burn it down and start up again. And I don't mean that lightly, because there's a lot to appreciate here. So Sony's app started off a few years ago as a nice little clean app with a lot of features, and then they kept adding features, and then they kept adding features, and then they kept adding features. And I love that, because some of those features came to their old devices. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and I appreciate it. But even Sony realized at some point that the app was getting a little too bloated. So instead of redesigning the app, what do? They added a home screen to it, another screen on top of the already existing madness to give you some quick access functions, the things that you used mostly, and some things that you almost never used, but the things that you used mostly. And this was cool, right? Except if you wanted to delve into anything, you had to go back to the original app, which is fine, except the original app now has 6 tabs, 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom. And all of them are chock full of options and features. And honestly, some of it is ridiculous. Remember that geolocating thing I was telling you about? You could do that in 3 different places in the app almost, which is ridiculous. There's a new scene tab at the bottom, which is essentially just a Spotify integration. I don't know what the deal with this Spotify is, but they're going hard on it. I mean, it's not a bad thing. If you go running, it can sense that you're running and it can start your favorite Spotify playlist or a recommended Spotify playlist. That's kind of cool. Did it have to have its own page? I don't know. I think they could have included this in another section of the app that already existed. But look, I mean, I am whinging a little bit. There are some really cool things. For example, the XM6 now supports Auracast, which is great. It's very cool, and if you come across a broadcast station in a train station or something in the future, the XM6 is ready for it. Also, it has low energy audio. It's a little bit cumbersome to activate low energy audio. You have to unpair this and then you have to repair it with the phone on low energy audio. You have to also get the phone to forget that it ever paired to this. I don't know if that's the LE standard or if that's Sony's implementation, but it's quite cumbersome. However, it does work, and between you and me, this is a very audio focused tech channel, right? I can't tell the difference between LDAC and low energy audio. I really can't. There, I said it, audiophiles are going to hammer me across a cross or something. It's just true. Now, the other advantage of low energy audio is that it's very low latency, which is great for gaming. I think that's a very cool thing. Overall, I think the app is a little bit of a mess. There are a lot of really useful features, but there's just too many different ways to do things that just should be streamlined. So I think, yeah, Sony, if you're listening, redo the app. I think it'll be worth it. Which brings us to sound quality. And this is a bit of a can of worms, right? So sound quality is kind of a thing on this channel. We're very audio focused, so I'm going to take a little bit of time doing this. There is one gimmick I want to get out of the way. Basically, you have listening modes. And what that does is introduce a little bit of spatial audio. You can make it sound like whatever you're listening to is coming from a speaker in a room or a living room or a cinema hall. Cinema is interesting. It makes it sound very spacious and increases the bass effect a lot. It's kind of nice. But honestly, I would recommend the My Room feature. That's pretty good. But putting all those gimmicks aside, what does it actually sound like? Okay, fundamentally, this is a warm, bassy sound, just like the outgoing model, and not that much has changed. This one does seem to be a little more vocal forward compared to the X Mark V. That's a good thing. I think a lot of Sony IEMs these days at least are not that vocal forward, and this is a thing I think people will enjoy. It is also a little more treble forward. And while that's not a bad thing, I did notice two things that I had a little bit of issue with. Actually, three things. Number one, bass impact. To my mind, while there is a lot of bass, it's not necessarily the highest quality bass. But more specifically, do you know when a bass really hits, like a bass drum hits, that point of impact ideally should be really tight, well controlled, and really be impactful. With the Sony IEMs and headphones, it doesn't seem to be the case. And this one's no exception. I think it's better than the X Mark V, but I think they have a ways to go yet. Another issue was that in the treble, while there was good extension in treble and everything seemed nice and airy, vocals like Teddy Swims, for example, and a lot of guitars had a little bit of a sharp, glassy edge to them. And I think it's because of a little bit of irregularity in the sort of lower treble. Also, I think a lot of people are going to find this a little bit on the muddier side overall. The good news is you have a 10-band EQ to fix it. But before you do that, there's a couple of things you should know. Now, this EQ has a +6 and a -6, but it's not plus and -6 dB. It's actually just plus or minus 2 dB. That is just a scale to give you some granularity, right? The other thing, and this is the important thing that you should know, is that when the EQ is off, it means it's the default tuning. And when you switch to custom, it's your custom tuning, right? But when you switch from custom to off, the volume level changes by about 3 decibels. Why is this important? Every time you go into custom and you make your own EQ setting and you want to compare it with Sony's default tuning, you're going to switch back to off and you're going to think, oh my God, the default tuning is so much more rich and lush and vibrant and all those sort of things, more detailed. That's not true. More than likely, it's just the fact that the volume level changes. If you want to compare, every time you switch between custom and off, just turn the volume down either 1 or 2 notches, depending on your EQ and depending on which phone you're using. And that'll be much better volume matching, and that'll give you a better idea of where you stand with regards to the regular EQ. Now, I have a couple of EQ suggestions for you. And things I'm trying to fix are, I'm not going to touch the bass. I tried to, I can't really improve on that bass quality much, but around 400-500 Hertz is a little too much. And here's a frequency response for those of you who know how to read frequency responses, and you can see that it's a bit wonky. From a $400 headphone point of view, this is not that great. From a $400 Bluetooth headphone point of view, it's still not that great. It's better because Bluetooth headphones aren't great, but it's not where it should be for Sony. But in the EQ, you can drop 500 Hertz down a couple of notches, and in my opinion, also drop the 4, 8, and 16 kilohertz down 1 notch. I think this improves matters significantly, but after doing this, I tried another approach, And I think this works better. So this is the second custom EQ you're seeing in front of you. Basically, drop 500 Hertz down by 1 notch, but increase 1 and 2 kilohertz by a notch each. This emphasizes vocals and de-emphasizes 500 Hertz. Everything is relative, right? This to me makes it vocal forward, just as intended, but still removes some of that muddiness which I want to remove. And you can just drop the 4 kilohertz by a bit and you'll still have the high treble as is to give you that sort of spacious sound effect, but 4 kilohertz down a bit sort of tames that glassiness and the sharpness that I thought I heard in the vocals and the guitars. So try it. You don't have to like it, but it's a good jumping off point to use this EQ and make your own EQ, and then share it on the Discord down in the link below. I think the overall effect is, with my EQ at least, this is a nice warm sounding bassy sound with vocal emphasis and a good amount of treble emphasis, whereas there was none in the outgoing model. And I think it sounds nice, but I think there's room for improvement. As to whether I would recommend it based on sound, we'll get to that in the conclusion section of the video. But before that, this is another microphone test in traffic conditions. Is my voice coming through clearly? I hope it is, because this next section I'm going to talk about battery life while I've got you here. So I started playing music through the headphone with the LDAC codec with active noise cancellation running and volume at 50%. Mind you, the volume gets really loud at this. So I think 50% is somewhere where you'll probably be listening to it, maybe 60%. And in an hour, it only sucked down about, what, 2% of battery? So that means you'll get 50 hours of battery, maybe 40 hours conservatively, which is kind of wild, especially if there's fast charging. Now, when I put it on charge, its charging rate was about 2 watts, and in 10 minutes, I gained about 8%. That is 4 hours of actual usage. So if you put it on for 20 minutes, you've got basically a day's worth of playback. So that's good. And hopefully you've been hearing me fine, because at this point is when I would ask you to maybe hit that subscribe and like button, which reminds me, we have to go to the conclusion. Would I recommend this or not? Okay, it depends on what you're asking. If, for example, you want something that's lightweight, travel-friendly, easy to travel with, has great battery life and pretty darn good noise cancelling and pretty darn good transparency mode, then yes, absolutely, I would recommend this. This is significantly more comfortable than a lot of its peers, and it has great battery life and all of the things I just said. However, if you told me that you want great sound out of the box and you're not interested in tweaking EQ, then I might not recommend this to you. If you're willing to tweak EQ, I might still recommend it, because it's got that warm, lush Sony sound. If you like that, I would say try it before you buy it, and try it with my EQ and see if you like it, because the end result is quite pleasing. But from an audiophile point of view, there is room to grow. I know what Sony can do with their wired offerings, so I wouldn't recommend it for outright sound out of the box. With EQ, hell yes. From a convenience point of view, from a sheer number of features per dollar point of view, from a comfort point of view, from an ease of use point of view, from a great touch control point of view, from a noise cancelling point of view, all of the above, yeah, I would easily recommend it. As to whether it holds up in the $400 category with its peers, the Sennheisers, the Boses, etc. of the world, well, you're just gonna have to subscribe, and I will make those videos and get that to you. But till then, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.